Salut, c'est Madame Hennessy. Welcome to yet another quarantine video. Today I'm going to be talking about the story project. So this is the final thing that you're doing for French 1. At this point, we are down to our final 2 weeks of middle school for you, which for me is really weird because, I thought the school year was supposed to go on indefinitely, just like the pandemic itself. So this is, it's weird to adjust to. But I've had a lot of really good questions coming in from a lot of you guys about all kinds of different things about this project. I've had students asking great questions via email, asking me great questions in video conferences. And overall, the more you communicate with me about what you're doing, the better. But I just want to go over some basic information for those who are more auditory learners than visual from reading through the directions, because between the directions and the announcements and all the e-learning posts and stuff, there's a lot of locations and a lot of words to read through in order to get all the info that you need. So first, let's talk about what I expect from you. Why did I not write the word expectations? Because I didn't plan for enough room on that piece of paper. So the story project itself, the bar is pretty low right now. We've been outside of the classroom for months now. And even though you guys are able to send me questions when you have them, it's still harder to communicate, even if you're really going above and beyond with the amount of questions that you ask. So what I expect on this project is that you turn it in French that you wrote. That's it. So I'm going to be grading this assignment just the same way that I've been grading all of the other quarantine e-learning assignments, which is just completion based. With that being said, it has to be completed by you, authentically by you. So if you have an older sibling write a few sentences for you, or if you Google Translate a few phrases, that's not you. You can't get any points. And yeah, just don't turn in anything that you personally didn't write. So yeah, just have the correct amount of sentences based on your personal level of writing. That's all I really need from you. So, and also please just make it in French. Don't turn in your final draft in English for your French project. It says this in the directions. It says this in the directions for the various drafts along the way. Please stop turning in English stuff. Or Spanish, because you clicked the wrong button on Google Translate. Okay, so let's talk about how to actually write in French at all. Remember that my expectation is for your writing to show up in this. And unless you have this amazing background in French already, which honestly none of my students this year do, it's French 1. It's normal, you're supposed to start from square one in French 1. It's going to be really simple language skills. And make sure that your output, your writing itself, needs to match the input that you've received thus far. So your output is what you're able to produce. So that's going to be your speaking skills and your writing skills. Your input is your listening and your reading. So if you have not heard a certain phrase or sentence structure in the French language yet, and you haven't read it anyplace yet, then you're probably not ready to use that particular sentence structure quite yet. So one analogy that I really like that Monsieur Gerbert from Riverside Junior High first came up with is the thimble of knowledge analogy. So I should probably have like, do I own a thimble? You have a massive amount of knowledge of the English language already. You're able to express yourselves so fluently in conversations and in writing. You can communicate formally and informally. You can talk to your friends, you can talk to your teachers, you can talk to your family, like all these different situations. But in the French language, because you're just starting off with 1 year of input, and the last couple months have really been reduced input because we don't have 48 minutes in a classroom every single day, you've got just this little thimble of French knowledge. So imagine that you have a little thimble and you try pouring even this much of your English language knowledge into that thimble. Like, if you put that on top of your head and you try pouring it in, that's going to be a mess. It's going to be awful. So don't try to speak English in French. So your French writing should be short, simple sentences right now, using phrases that you are familiar with. So if you want to express something, you just have to find the simplest way that's familiar to you in French. So if you try making your rough draft, imagining the sentences in English, it won't work. It has to be more acquisition based. So phrases that you've actually heard, that you're familiar with, that you've acquired. Because if you translate one word at a time, you're going to end up with Frankenstein's sentences. Are you guys familiar with the Frankenstein monster? I hope so. But yeah, they'll just like be thrown together in ways that are gross and don't make sense. So don't do that to yourselves. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to the French people that you eventually are able to connect with. You're going to communicate a lot better if you speak French in French. So don't make your sentences too complicated. If you have a really complex sentence, you either need to pare it down or you might need to just find a different way to express yourself for the time being. So then next comes learning new words, learning new phrases. Because in this project, you are supposed to put together a glossary in your final draft. I don't expect to see more than 10 words or phrases in your glossary. Because if it's a higher number of that with a story this short, then that means that you're just like spending all of your time looking up individual words that you might not know how to put into a sentence in a logical way yet, and it's going to make the writing really choppy and not based on your input. So learning new words here and there is good. Making an entire story out of something that you've never read or spoken about or heard about in the French language before, not a great idea. So you are required to look up new words for this project. You're also required to not use Google Translate. Google Translate is cheating on this project. So in order to find new words, you should be using Word Reference. You can use the Word Reference app on your phones. So I can actually pull that up as an example. I don't know if that's going to really like show up on this type of recording, but there's an app called Word Reference. And then there's also the website wordreference.com. Make sure that you have it set in English to French mode. And let's say that you're looking up, where do we want to look up? I can't call in a class right now. This is weird. You want to look up the word fly. So just type in the English word fly, search it up, and there are going to be a bunch of different translations. So underneath français are going to be the different French words. But you need to pay attention to the part of speech. So like when it says VI next to it, that tells you that it's a verb. So let's say that one of the characters is a fly. You're not going to say that that character is a voler, because voler is the verb, like to travel through the air, because it says in parentheses, move through the air. So you're not going to be like, there's a little move through the air. Like, no. So you look through travel by plane, pilot a plane, insect. Yeah, an insect is the thing that the character would be. So mouche is the word that you would end up using, and it specifies that it's a feminine noun. So use word reference, either the app or the website, in order to check the words, and use the information that that website gives you so that you know that you're using the correct word. But when in doubt, just ask me. So you can just email me like, hey, Madame Hennessy, I want to say this. Here's the word that I found on word reference. How do I use it? And then I'll tell you how to use it. And we'll be good. And then you'll learn more along the way. So ask me those questions. You can send me an email. You can ask in a video conference. Whatever works for you. Let's see. Oh yeah, the moral of the story. I didn't put that as one of my little pretty pages. Oh well. But the moral of the story, that's the portion that is the trickiest for a lot of people, just because the way you do it is different from all of the other writing. So, like, if you try saying every cloud has a silver lining or something like that, you can Google search, like, French, every cloud has a silver lining, but don't Google translate it. And I know this idea is probably confusing a lot of you. So, like, if I Google search, got my phone out because I'm filming this on my computer. So if I just Google search silver lining French, so there's like the Google Translate, that's literal, and the moral of the story is usually going to be an adage. It's usually going to be an idiomatic expression that doesn't make sense if you translate it word by word. So like, doubler argent, ignore that. It's useless in this context. So let's try Collins Dictionary, see what that comes up with. No, that's the wrong source. I found this earlier today. Hold on. Equivalent? I'm going to add the word equivalent, if I can spell it right, onto my Google search. Okay. So, when I Google searched silver lining, a French equivalent, then there's the Collins Dictionary, French translations of every cloud has a silver lining. And then it's got proverbs. So a proverb is going to be like an authentic French phrase. So here it has à quelque chose malheur est bon. So like it doesn't include the phrase, what was it, doublure argent, argenté, doublure en argent. Shush. That's actually a text from Mr. Gerbert. So you want to find the actual proverb phrases that French people actually say. So, à quelque chose malheur est bon, à une chose malheur est bon, PetSmart advertisements. But overall, you want to Google search French phrases the way that French people say them, rather than Google translating English phrases. I hope that makes sense. But again, when in doubt, email me, ask me those questions. So at this point, things to avoid. Don't do it. Avoid Google Translate. we've been over this since the first week of the school year. Don't use Google Translate because it's not proficiency. It's not you. It's not communication. It's cheating. It's been labeled as such in multiple steps of this project. It's been labeled as such in the classroom management plan for this class. Don't use Google Translate. So, if you currently have any draft of this project that currently includes anything that is Google translated, change it and resubmit. Now. Also, don't have like your older sister write a phrase for you. Even if it's just one phrase, that's turning in somebody else's work. That's plagiarism. That's a 0, and that's a referral. So basically, if you're tempted to use Google Translate or to have somebody else write something for you, that probably means that your writing is currently too complicated. So that's that thimble of knowledge type idea. So your writing should be based on what you're able to express, what you've acquired in the French language. And it also means that you're probably not asking me enough questions. Like, I'm here. My job is to teach. I signed up for it voluntarily on purpose. And like, when I tell you guys to email me questions, I won't be upset if you email me your questions. So like, you don't need to apologize when you send me your questions via email, even if it's like 10 questions in one day. Do what you gotta do. If it's your work, if it's your writing, I'm going to be proud of you for what you end up with. If you turn around and cheat, give up on yourself as a learner and give up on me as your teacher, I'll be upset, like really, really angry. And like, I'm pregnant. I have pregnancy hormones and pregnancy rage. Don't risk that. I will email your parents. So just make sure it's your own writing. It's not expected to be perfect. I expect to see like a lot of issues in your writing at this stage in your learning process. And that's where learning comes from taking those risks, being willing to make those mistakes. It's part of our classroom rules that we've been working with all year. And even though we're not in the classroom anymore, we want to keep going with that because it's how we become French speakers. So, moving forward, where'd I put that? Ask me questions, please. That page doesn't look as pretty. I'm not as happy with my fake calligraphy there. But anyhow, keep sending me questions, keep sending me drafts, keep signing up for video conferences. If you're not available during the video conference time slots on the Sign Up Genius, email me. We can schedule something. And really just make the most of these last couple weeks. I think that's my cue to stop the video. Okay, bye!